Hello, everybody. I hope you can hear me. Let's see here. Just gotta get situated because I was having some technical difficulties with the stream just now. That was probably really loud. I'm sorry. Yeah, it looks like the audio's doing all right. All right, cool. All right. So, sorry about that. I'm streaming from my Xbox, so it's a little more complicated than usual when I was doing my PC stuff. So, we're here for the 200 subscribers celebration stream. I hope everyone's having a good night, and I hope that you're ready for some cool chibi action here. This game I've been kind of honing my skills at for a little while now over this past week, and I'm actually really enjoying it. So let's start it up here, and I'll play the opening cutscene for you guys because it's pretty funny. So we see. Oh, is the audio too loud? So I see my friend Haven of Horror, John, here. And hello. I see Captain Omni, too, who says Sony for life. And no, sir. I like Xbox. Well, we can agree to disagree there. I like the voice actor that plays Tathamon in this. He kind of does like a Mark Hamill impression. Hello, unknown passenger. There we go. There's the Mark Hamill Joker laugh.
No, I've got it. A contest of the brave. No muscle-bound fool could resist. I'll conjure a Rathathon.
I like that this game is sort of a little bit more of a goofy take on the Conan mythology stuff, which is cool. And here we go. Alright, so for those who don't know, this is a roguelite type game. So basically the premise is it's like a dungeon crawling RPG, and every time you die you go back to the beginning of the game. It's like an old NES game, sort of, or an arcade game where there's not any checkpoints. But you do save all of the resources that you gather to craft new gear, and you earn abilities that will make your character stronger if you play more as them. So you get to save some progress, but I've made it thus far up to the third boss. I haven't been able to beat him yet, but let's see how we do here. I'll do some runs for you guys and answer some questions in the meantime when it dies down a little bit in the combat and stuff. So we're going to start a new game. You're about to... Okay. So I've been leveling up Mr. Conan, who is... I haven't really tried Belit, Palantides, or Valeria yet, but it's cool that, this is a 4-player co-op game. You can play online with people too. And there's some pretty cool deep pulls from Conan lore, obviously, we got Belit here, Queen of the Black Coast herself. Palantides, he's one of Conan's right-hand men soldiers in The Hour of the Dragon, and Valeria, of Conan movie fame, of course. Alright, so we're going to start with Conan, because he's the only character I've leveled up at all thus far. And we're going to get into it. One of the things I like about this game is how kind of inspired by the old Legend of Zelda games it is as well, in addition to the, of course, roguelite influence you got here. The art style in some ways, it's not exactly the same as the Wind Waker, but it reminds me of that style of Zelda game art style in some ways. Like that game, and then the Four Swords games, the original one on Game Boy Advance, and then Four Swords Adventures. So I feel right at home playing this game. It's really cool. Alright. So there's the door there. Basically the premise of the game is you get to beat 4 bosses. I know the first one is Thak, the second one is a sandworm, and the third one is a frost giant. Those are the 3 I've seen so far. I'm not sure what the 4th one is. So I've got a bunch of resources here. I'm gonna forge some new gear. Let's see. I'm not a huge fan of the 2-handed maces. I'll unlock them eventually, but I much prefer either the spears or the swords. So I'm gonna go with an iron pike, and that will be unlocked, that variant of it, for the rest of my days here. So we'll go and pick that up. Now I got a nice cool looking spear. Let's see. I will... Are there any good charms? Yeah, we'll do fire arrows. The charms, like, of course, enhance your ability, so now I can shoot fire, which is obviously very useful. I can do more damage to people. Let's see. What armor can I buy? Stun and inflict fear. Alright, we're going to go with this armor. Commander's chainmail. Let's see if there's any good. We'll get the bee pet. Alright. So the one pre-written question that was on the announcement video for this stream I got was someone who had asked, I don't have the chat up at the moment, sorry, but I'll answer your question. I really appreciate it. It was someone that, hadn't really heard of Conan before I had started this channel and they discovered it. So they were saying, they're kind of like engrossed in the lore now and they're really enjoying getting into it, which really excites me. That's one of the things I wanted to make this channel for, was to kind of, increase exposure of this character, because I think, there's a lot of great stuff that has been done with Conan. From the films to the, various video games and, of course, the original Howard stories and all of everything else in between. So I'm glad that has had, some effect on people in a positive way. So, they were asking how I got into it, and, I have to admit, I'm a recent, convert of the, super fan Conan fandom. My first exposure to the character was the comic books. I started reading the reboot of the Dark Horse comic series when Brian Wood and Becky Cloonan were doing it. That was when Dark Horse adapted Queen of the Black Coast. So, that story was awesome. Brian Wood and Becky Cloonan were 2 creators I was really liking at the time. That were working in the industry. Brian Wood had done some cool Star Wars comic stuff over at Dark Horse, and I wasn't really reading a sword and sorcery fantasy title, so I'd always heard, that Conan had a long history in comic books, especially the Marvel comic series. So I was like, oh, I'll check this out, because I like, I'm a big fan of the Marvel Thor. And I was like, yeah, I could go for something that's along that kind of vibe, and it surprised me, and it wasn't exactly what I was expecting, in that it was a little bit different. than the what I would have expected, from like a Marvel Thor sword and sorcery fantasy thing. That was my first exposure to the character, in a literary form. Of course, I've talked about this before. I did watch the movies when I was younger, the Arnold Schwarzenegger ones, and I liked those quite a bit as well. So it's a combination of those two things. In terms of being aware of the character, I really did like the Arnold movies when I was younger. So that was like, the thing that prompted me to check out the comics, of course. And then after the comic books, series at Dark Horse ended, it was kind of dormant for a little while, and I didn't really think much about getting into the Conan fandom anymore. But what kind of prompted my starting this channel is just that I'm kind of a disgruntled Marvel fan at this point. I love the old classic Marvel comic book stuff. I like a lot of their older movies and even some of the recent MCU stuff. But I don't know. Spider-Man has always been my favorite Marvel character, and that new movie that they made, I thought I just didn't like it very much at all. And I felt kind of like an alien in that fandom, because it repulsed me in a way that it didn't seem to a lot of other people. So I kind of wanted to focus my hobby of being a geeky nerd person into something that I was actually interesting to me, instead of just complaining about not liking the current direction of Marvel Comics as an entity. It's more just kind of their, in my view, lack of creativity, more than anything else, and it just being being a victim of corporate culture, in the sense that there's just so many cooks in the kitchen. It's a wonder that anybody's able to make anything with a coherent story, and especially in that last Spider-Man movie, for me, it was just a complete mess story-wise. So I was like, I should probably get into something different, and I was like, I know that the Howard Conan stories are relatively accessible because they're short stories. I feel like that would make a pretty good video podcast series where I could sort of summarize the stories and do analysis on them from a pseudo historical perspective, because I always knew Conan, of course, was a historical fiction thing, and I love history. So I had tried to do a straight up history podcast on a variety of topics before. One of them I tried was on the history of racism in the United States. Another one I tried out was the history of fascism and its rise in the 30s and really the 1920s, 30s, and 40s in Europe, particularly in Italy and Germany. But I found that it was kind of difficult to get an audience of people that were interested in sitting down and just watching a straight up history lecture. So I thought maybe if I talked about the historical things that are in the Conan stories, it would make a podcast about history in some parts a little bit more entertaining and interesting to people. And so far, that's proved to be the case. I think I've gotten a pretty good reception from people in terms of the historical analysis that I try to put in the videos. No one's complained about it yet, so it seems to be really hitting a chord with the small audience that I've cultivated so far. But we're growing really fast. I mean, I'm already at 253 subscribers, I believe, as of today. So it's really, really cool. I'm just honored and flattered that people think my content's good enough to spend their time watching. So I thank all of you for watching, commenting, liking, subscribing, all that kind of stuff. It really means a lot, and I I wouldn't be making these videos and putting as much effort into them in terms of the writing, the recording, the editing, the research that I do for the historical stuff. If it was just me shouting into the void and nobody really cared. So I really do appreciate you guys in checking it out and everything. Alright, so I'm going to buy some meat to restore my health a little bit here. See if there's anything else that's worth buying. It doesn't seem that worth it. What's the DPS? Okay. Yeah, I'm going to buy this bow. Alright. So let's see. Unknown Passenger says I can relate to the feelings of feeling like an alien from his thoughts on No Way Home. Yeah, man. The entire world seemed to really love that movie, and I guess more power to them, but it just seemed like a very cynical, exploitative nostalgia grab to me. I get what they were kind of going for in doing a celebration of the cinematic history of Spider-Man, but I don't know, to me personally, celebrating the history of that character would have been just making a really great movie in the way that, like, for example, the people who made the Batman film that just came out did, where it's one of the best adaptations of the Batman comic books, I think, ever, in anything. Pattinson's incredible, and it's just a really tight story about that character that explores who he is as a person, what makes him interesting, his world. I'm really jealous of Batman fans in that regard, because what I as a Spider-Man fan got was just nostalgia cartoons fighting other nostalgia cartoons and Tom Holland. So I would have preferred something like that, but if that's what the current Marvel fan base wants and the kind of people that comprise it now, more power to them. I'm just not one of those people, so I figured I should just move on to something else. So you can see, I guess I'll kill one of them less quickly when I see another one up here, but the teleporting guys in this really remind me of the Wizrobes from the Wind Waker. If anyone's ever played that, they have sort of like a toucan look, and these things definitely look like birds in like hooded robes here, and they do the whole teleportation thing, which is cool. We have a question from Connor Nielsen, one of my good friends. How you doing, Connor? He's asking if I'm going to do a ranking of the Howard stories after I finish reviewing all of them, and yes, I had planned on doing that. I haven't decided if I'm going to do that right after I finish them or do the Hyborian Age essay that Howard did. That's kind of like a guide to the lore of the various kingdoms and cultures of Howard's world, which is a really interesting... it's just kind of like a lore book, really. And he wrote it for himself, really, just to kind of like keep track of everything, and then it was eventually published, I think, in the 50s. I won't have a ton of analysis to do for that, but I think it might be useful to kind of summarize it for people as a way to, have people understand the world of Conan in a, concise and succinct way. So yeah, I did plan on doing a sort of ranking of those. It's going to be hard because, I know which ones are definitely at the bottom for me. But I anticipate The Hour of the Dragon being one of my favorites in the future because, that's the only full Howard Conan novel, which, ironically enough, the Kevin Sorbo Cull the Conqueror movie is based on. He didn't want to play Conan because he didn't want to play the same role as Arnold, so they just made him Cull instead, one of the other Robert E. Howard characters that, for example, Howard appropriated into Conan stories, like the Phoenix on the Sword. The first Conan story was a old Cull story that he pulled out of the drawer and sort of reworked it as a Conan thing to get it published. So I'm expecting to really like that one, and then there's some other gems coming up too, from what I understand. So that should be cool. All right. Let's see. Hector Rodriguez says he didn't enjoy the Batman movie. It's not a bad movie, but I don't know. I prefer Batman Begins as a Batman movie. No, I mean, that's fair. Like, Batman Begins is also a great movie. I like The Dark Knight a lot, too. I'm not the biggest Batman fan in the world. Like, I like the world of Gotham and some of the villains more than I actually like Batman as a, as a character and a person. So I was really taken with the kind of take on Batman that Pattinson and Matt Reeves and company brought to the table with that movie, because it was, I think, maybe the first time I'd been really genuinely interested in Bruce Wayne as a person. I think the vulnerability and the tortured soul kind of thing has never been as fully realized as that film. So having an emotional connection to the character and all of that really spoke to me in a way that some of the other Batman films don't. I mean, certainly, like, I love The Dark Knight and Batman Begins as just really great movies in general. But I think the Batman may be my favorite just because it's got my favorite Batman actor in it. Haven of Horror, my friend John, he says, we need Ash Williams versus Conan. That would be awesome. Conan's done some crossovers, from what I understand, in recent Marvel stuff. There's a Savage Avengers book that has Conan in it, and it's like sort of the various like Marvel anti-heroes, sort of like, think of the one of the more recent Thunderbolts lineups where it's like Elektra, Punisher, Venom, and Wolverine, I think, is on the Savage Avengers. I don't think he was on the Thunderbolts team I'm talking about, but those type of like anti-hero characters paired with Conan, which I don't know how I feel about. The idea itself is kind of fanficky, obviously, and I don't know how much that interests me inherently, but who knows? Maybe the story's good and I could be turned around on it. I plan on getting to that stuff eventually. It's just there's so much Conan material, Marvel comics, or the other stories that were published in between by people like Elsberg de Camp and the various other people he worked with. I'll probably do that stuff next because I feel like that stuff definitely will inform the Marvel comics, just because they came before, and the Conan paperbacks in the 60s that were edited by de Camp, and he finished some of the Howard stories in addition to writing his own to kind of fill out the chronicles of Conan's life. I feel like that'll be very informative when looking at the Roy Thomas, Barry Windsor Smith, and John Buscema stuff. But I'm really excited to get to the Marvel comics because I'm obviously, as you can tell, a big comic book fan, especially of Marvel, much more so than DC. I like DC, just Marvel. I'm a Marvel zombie at heart. I just like their characters better. So I'm excited to sort of get to the Marvel Conan stuff, because one of the things is interesting that a lot of people don't realize about the Marvel Conan run is it was the first comic book to sort of do the dark, gritty, and mature stuff that everyone lauds Watchmen and Dark Knight Returns being the first things in comics to kind of bring that vibe back to comics after the swing into like censorship that happened in the 50s with Frederick Wortham and the Seduction of the Innocent, where the Comics Code was established and stuff. In the 70s, in the mid-70s, is when Savage Sword of Conan launched, and it was a black and white comic magazine that Marvel published under an alternate imprint. I don't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but they published that, and it was completely uncensored. I mean, they were able to do pretty much anything they wanted in that book. and it was the creative team that had been working on the Barbarian series before Savage Sword launched. So you kind of had the flagship series that was a series that the typical Marvel Comics readership could read, and then for people that were a little bit more mature, you had the Savage Sword book, and it really pioneered that being an acceptable thing to portray in comic books. The violence, the sex, there's no like swearing, obviously, because Conan doesn't, words like fuck and shit like wouldn't have existed back then. So it's but it did pioneer that kind of more the push towards just people in the comic book medium being able to tell whatever kind of stories they wanted, and I think that's just something people forget about Conan as a contribution to the comic book industry, and I think that's really cool because he definitely deserves to be remembered as one of the titans of not just pulp fiction lore and culture, but also comic books. Because the Conan book was written and drawn by the same creative team largely for 15-20 years. I mean, it's like a Claremontian X-Men level of one creator getting to sort of execute their creative vision on a comic for a very long time. So if you're into that sort of stuff in the sword and sorcery genre, the Marvel Conan stuff is awesome. I'm actually thinking of getting into collecting the Marvel Conan stuff because after the first issue of Barbarian and Savage Sword, it's relatively inexpensive to collect those books. It's just a matter of scraping up the money to buy the first issues, because I'm watching one of them on eBay right now. All of the buy it nows for even like the lower grade copies are around like $350. So I'm like, I don't know if I can justify spending that kind of money on a comic book, but maybe someday. Maybe someday. Hey, Noah O is here. Hello, Noah. And we also got a comment from my friend John. He says, Ash has crossed over with whatever Dynamite can get their hands on at this point. Do you have any idea if he crossed over with Red Sonja? Because Red Sonja, of course, is a character that was created in the Marvel Conan stuff, sort of out of the skeleton of another Howard character that wasn't in the Conan... that wasn't in the Conan stories when Howard wrote them, but they sort of appropriated the rough details of the character. I mean, it's a pretty loose adaptation, honestly, but she was adapted by Thomas and Buscema into the Marvel Conan books, so she's like a unique creation of that, the Marvel stuff. And for whatever reason, at some point, the rights for Conan and Red Sonja were separated into two separate holding companies. So they're run by different people, from what I understand. And Red Sonja's over at Dynamite. Marvel has Conan. I wish they were both in the same place so that they could cross over and stuff like they used to. Red Sonja even had her own title at Marvel for a while. I'm not sure for how long or if Roy Thomas wrote that. I know much less about Red Sonja's solo title, but I'd like to review some of her stuff at some point because she is a pretty cool character. Gail Simone has, from what I understand, a really great run on her book over at Dynamite. Who's a great writer, so yeah. We also have Captain Omni. Earlier he said, all I can think of with Conan on the Savage Avengers is Grognak, the Barbarian from Fallout, in that comic team that's in Fallout The Unstoppables, where he time travels to be part of it. Yeah, in my Fallout 76 house, because I played that game for a while. I'm a big Fallout fan, and I know it was like really glitchy and stuff when it first came out, but despite all that, I thought there was still some charm to it. I really liked the West Virginia map. I'm a geek for American history and landmarks, so just being able to run around in like post-apocalyptic West Virginia was really cool for me. And in my house, I just have it covered in Ragnak stuff. Because that's like one of the, of course, one of the main comic book characters in the Fallout universe. And I don't know. I thought that was a cool little touch in the Fallout universe that we got there. Oh, it looks like I'm having a little bit of trouble with the stream. Cut out for a second there. I hope we're still okay. It said I'm back, but... Kill the facehugger. Alright, there we go. So Noah says he still has a soft spot for the 2 Nolan movies. But the Batman has the potential to overtake it. Yeah, I mean, that's totally fair. I still really like the Nolan movies as well. I'm even like a Christian Bale stan to some degree. I know the consensus has kind of soured on him in the Batman fandom in recent years because his voice gets kind of goofy at sometimes, which I admit that is a thing, but I don't know. I'm a big Christian Bale fan in general, and I think he's probably still my second favorite Batman actor at this point. Because he was my favorite, and then I think Pattinson overtook him for me. Because I think the performance is just as good, he just doesn't have that goofy voice. And I think the writing, the actual characterization of the character, I find a little bit more interesting in this iteration than the Nolan movies, as good as those are. You can't compete with Heath Ledger as the Joker, and even Bane in Rises I like quite a bit. He's awesome. And hilarious at the same time. That's one of the things where it's like, I think Bane's voice is really goofy, but I love it unabashedly. Let's see. I think my love of the Batman also has a lot to do with the Riddler, because the Riddler is my favorite Batman villain, and always has been. So it was cool to see a sort of a new take on that, I think they did a really good job of making the Riddler scary and a serial killer, but also just kind of like a funny, like, goofy, nerdy guy, like he is in the comic books and in the various other media adaptations so far that we've gotten. Like, Paul Dano's performance is great, and he also has some legitimately, like, funny lines and affects and stuff, as the Riddler should. So I appreciated that about the movie quite a bit too. We got a mini boss here. Boo, we beat him. I'm glad that I played this game a little bit before I got on stream, because this game by yourself is really difficult, especially when you're starting out, because you have no gear or anything. But now that I've kind of leveled my character up and unlocked some of the better gear items, I can pretty much blow through the first 2 stages. It's when I get to 3 where I really start to have trouble and a little bit overwhelmed with the enemies. What do we have here? Oh, this is key. Alright, there we go. Did I not equip the other charm? Oh, if it's not there, it's going to be unfortunate. Oh, I guess maybe I didn't buy it. What are my charms? Fires, dummy dash. Okay, I guess we'll stick with these for now. Alright, let's go into the second dungeon, folks. Noah says, remember bat nuts? Yeah, I mean, we're about to be forced to remember that, even if we didn't in a few, what is it, a few months here? I don't know. I don't remember when the Flash movie's coming out at this point, nor do I really care. The Flash is my favorite DC character, and I don't know, I'm just not a fan of Ezra Miller's take on the Flash, and it looks like that movie is just going to be Batman No Way Home, which is really unfortunate. because it's going to be like, you know, the return of Affleck as Batman. It's going to be the return of Michael Keaton. It's like, you know, I would have liked to have gotten a movie where, like, you know, Mirror Master is the villain, or Captain Cold is the villain, or, you know, Captain Boomerang, or, you know, any number of the Flash rogues would have been cool. But, you know, factory studio filmmaking, I guess maybe they don't think those kind of superhero movies are big enough after Endgame and No Way Home to sell. You know, they got to make it everything into a big bloated event, rather than, you know, the days of the something like the Raimi Spider-Man movies, where, like, we're just gonna make a story that's about this character and we hope you like it. And if you don't, that's fine. We won't make any more sequels. But if you do, then we'll make more. That's the kind of era of superhero movies I miss. You know, like the Raimi Spider-Man movies, even when you get to some of the over-bloatedness in 3, it never gets as bloated as some of the MCU stuff lately. It's really unfortunate, I think. Like, I have made a pledge to never see another Marvel film, at least for a while. I'm kind of done. It breaks my heart to not be excited about that Doctor Strange movie that just came out, but I really don't care how long the cameos in the movie are. The fact that they're there at all, it just feels gross and cynical to me. So I'm just tired of Marvel setting things up and then only to leave me ultimately disappointed by the payoff for the things that they're setting up. Like, I hated Avengers Endgame because Thor and the Hulk are my favorite characters on that movie version of the team, at least, and because they're two of my favorite Marvel characters in general. But, you know, the Hulk isn't really a mainstay Avenger in the comic books. He's there for, like, the first few issues. He goes away, and then from time to time he pops in again. But I don't really think of the Hulk as a mainstay Avenger, you know, other than in the movies. But after Thor Ragnarok and Avengers Endgame, they just kind of ruined those characters. So, and the plot of Endgame was just kind of like, let's remember other movies that are better than this, and, like, bring back all of these actors for cameos. It was the same kind of thing as No Way Home, and, you know, I would have rather the epic conclusion of the Infinity Saga to be something more akin to the you know, the Infinity Gauntlet, where it's an epic story with a satisfying conclusion, rather than just a celebration of, you know, oh, we made a lot of movies that are better than this one, you know. But that's just me. I know a lot of people like Avengers Endgame. I'm a cranky old man at this point. It is what it is. All right, let's see here. Hector Rodriguez says, have you considered making a video about the influence of Conan in cinema? Like the Riddick movies, other sword and sorcery films, etc. By the way, which ones are your favorites? That has not really been a video that's been on my radar, but it's a good idea for sure. I would be open to doing a video on such things. I have to do more research because you know, at the moment I just honestly don't know a lot about which films Conan has influenced in the history of cinema. I've obviously seen all of the Conan films and Red Sonja, but I think I've seen the second Riddick movie, The Chronicles of Riddick. I don't know that I've ever seen the first one. I don't remember what the title is at the moment. It's something Pitch Dark or something like that. I don't know that I've seen that one. And Chronicles of Riddick I saw a very long time ago, so I honestly don't remember much about it. But my favorite Conan film is the first movie, Conan the Barbarian. I was really hoping that all of the attempts to turn Conan into a series were going to get some traction. You know, at first it was over at Amazon. They had supposedly a showrunner that had worked with a bunch of writers, and they had, from what the rumors are anyway, the scripts were supposedly amazing, and then the current boss at Amazon at the time when this was all being developed was ousted, and a new boss came in, and that boss did the, I guess, I didn't really know this, but I guess from what I understand is a standard corporate practice thing where you kind of, when you're in the film industry, you come in and any of the projects that would kind of, give any credence to the success of your predecessor, you kind of, don't move forward with them if they're not far along enough in development that it would cost a ton of money to cancel them. So I guess the Conan show was axed in favor of Amazon pursuing the rights to buy the rights to Lord of the Rings, and of course, I'm sure people have seen that they're moving forward with that project. I mean, it's already been filmed, from what I understand, and we've gotten cast photos and teaser trailers and such. So that's disappointing to me because I'm much less of a Lord of the Rings fan than I am a Conan fan. I don't know. I've seen the Peter Jackson films, and I understand why people like them. I just find them kind of boring, to be honest. But I haven't watched them a ton, and my opinion might change if I went back to them. And I've tried to read the Tolkien books before, and I just, again, find them kind of boring. But that's just me. I know that's probably sword and sorcery or fantasy heresy to say, but Conan appeals much more to me because it's more directly about history, and Conan, I think, is he's a bit more of a exciting and realistic to what warriors were like at the time character. I mean, I think, obviously it's a Pulp Fiction universe, so there is an element of, romanticization to it, but there were more warriors like Conan in the world than Aragorn. Let's put it that way. Back in the medieval and ancient times, I just find that sort of realism that the Conan universe brings a little bit more interesting. I know Tolkien did base Lord of the Rings partly on some historical stuff. From what I understand, it's an allegory for, I think, World War I. I've heard people say, but that I don't know anything about Lord of the Rings, so I could be entirely wrong. Oh, I gotta get that heart. So this boss also reminds me quite a bit of The Legend of Zelda. The sandworms are a staple of Zelda bosses. I haven't read a Conan story where there is a giant sandworm, so I'm sure it's in one of the Conan stories, because obviously Thak and the Frost Giant, that is the third boss, are from the Rogues in the House and the Frost Giant's daughter, respectively. So I'm sure that they were looking at something when they made this a boss. But it also, does remind me of Zelda quite a bit. I just love how quick and snappy the combat of this game is. It's really fine-tuned in how precise it is, and it's a really fun mobile game. You're always on the run. Very action-y game. I like that about it quite a bit. And I don't know. The art style on the game package, it initially wasn't entirely appealing to me, but it had sort of the Wind Waker effect with me. I think a lot of people, when they first saw the art style for Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker when that game was coming off of Ocarina of Time, which achieved a more realistic fantasy style to the degree that the N64 could at the time, were a little bit disappointed that they went with such a cartoon-inspired art style for the Wind Waker. And I guess I had what those people felt with this game, and I was like, Conan, in a sort of early 2000s flash game chibi style. I don't know if that's inherently appealing to me, but I have to say I've been turned around on it because I think it fits this game really well, and the art design is incredible for this game. It just looks awesome. I really love the art style and how fully realized the various enemies and the world of it is. It's really cool. John said my favorite movie is the Jason Momoa movie. Yeah, man, that movie is awful. I'm gonna be very interested to the depths of dislike that I find for that movie when I analyze it, because it in many ways is, it tries to be a little closer to the source material than the at least the first Conan movie, the John Milius one, and that one is decently close, but I think they tried to get a little bit more closer to the characterization of Conan from Howard's stories, because they put some lines from the stories in different contexts, and they come off as kind of cringy, to be honest. It's not my preferred way to adapt a character, but I also think, Jason Momoa is great casting for Conan. I think if given the opportunity to play Conan in something that was competently written and edited, and the editing of that movie is one of the most irritating things about it, to be honest. Yeah, I really don't like that movie. It's not great. So we're fighting werewolves, folks. I think the enemy designs are in this Frost level are probably my favorites in the game so far. I do like the Desert Spearman in Koth, which is pretty cool too, though. What do we got here? Oh, this armor's better. And I just bought some too. What a waste. But that's the thing about this game, you never know. All of the levels and the gear that you get are procedurally generated. So you have a different experience every time you play this game. It's obviously like the same enemy types, the same general theme of the levels, but what spawns in is random. I think that kind of aspect of the game is one of the things that keeps it fresh too. If it was exactly the same levels every time, I think it would get a little stale, but I like the combat enough that playing through these procedural levels is really fun. Hector Rodriguez says Henry Cavill is Conan. Yeah, that wouldn't be my first choice. It would be weird to see. I mean, I guess he plays Geralt in The Witcher, so he has played characters who are a little more morally ambiguous than Superman. But even Geralt, I feel like, is a little bit nobler than Conan in many instances. So it would be a little weird, but I mean, he definitely could look the part if he, dyed his hair brown and all that stuff. I really hope that he could do brown or black hair. Black is what it is in the books, and then, Arnold and Momoa have brownish hair. But, yeah, I really would like to see them cast somebody with, blue eyes and either dye their hair black or have black hair, because I don't know, like the blue eyes thing especially is such a key aspect of the character's identity in the books. Howard is always describing Conan as having these like brilliantly blue smoldering eyes, And I don't know, it's a very distinct image in the mind's eye when you read those stories. So I would really like to see something like that. If he wasn't, you know, kind of aged out of action movies in the sense that he doesn't want to do James Bond anymore, I'd say Daniel Craig would be a great pick for Conan. I think he could play the character from the books perfectly. I think he would be able to play the kind of like no nonsense, cunning, intelligent character that Conan is in the Howard stories. He's got the blue eyes thing going on, and you know, he could maybe dye his hair black or something. I don't know. I just think he would be wonderful as Conan. But he probably wouldn't want to do that at this point. He's getting up there in his career. He just finished being one of the most iconic characters in cinema. He probably doesn't need or want to add another one into his repertoire. So, some of the suggestions in the comments here are really funny. John says Tom Holland as Conan. I mean, don't give Tom Holland any ideas. He's already trying to be James Bond, which I think is a horrible fit. But you know, Connor says Bob Odenkirk as Conan. That would be hilarious. John says Bruce Campbell as Conan. I could maybe see it depending on what the take is, but it wouldn't. I don't know. Hector Rodriguez says Bill Burr. That would be hilarious. Jake Gyllenhaal as Conan isn't a terrible pick. I could kind of see that too. I'd really want someone who's a great actor to get to sink their teeth into that role, especially now that, you know, the only people who get really big for action movie roles aren't, you know, people like Arnold Schwarzenegger or even Sean Connery in his day, because he was a bodybuilder before he got Bond. He was sort of cast in that sort of Schwarzenegger vein for someone in the early 60s, like a guy who was, for the time at least, super built and would look like a formidable spy. I think, you know, when you have all these actors that are roiding up and training to play superheroes, I think you could cast someone that you wouldn't necessarily think of to have the physique right away, and they could train to get there. I also think that Arnold, his body is an amazing thing in terms of like a feat of physiology and how hard he worked on it, but I also think it's a bit unrealistic to imagine that a person with the kind of nutrition that was available to people at the time and the fact that people weren't, you know, doing the bump in the gym all the time, like, they would look a little bit more like Jason Momoa looks in his Conan movie, where he's sort of like a lean... He's very built and strong and his muscles are prominent, but he's more of a lean, athletic... strong than anything else, because Conan's a thief, and you know that requires agility and the ability to be stealthy. I mean, Conan in the Arnold movie, I mean that's a guy you'd see coming from 2 miles away, you know. So it's kind of the same thing I have getting back to Batman, I guess, with the Affleck version of Batman. Like, there's no way that guy could ever be stealthy. He's just a monster. He's huge. But I know I'm, depending on who you talk to, a fraud in that regard, too, because Ben Affleck is pretty well liked amongst Batman fans from what I understand about his casting. I don't think he's necessarily a bad acting choice for the character. I also just have this weird thing with Ben Affleck where I can't unsee him as Ben Affleck. Like, I'm like, oh, you know, it's Big Ben once again. Like, he doesn't transform for me, just partly because of how famous and like distinct of a face he has. I'm a big Daredevil fan, and I kind of have the same thing with him in that role too. I just don't. It's just kind of Ben Affleck in cosplay to me, and I know that's kind of unreasonable and unfair to him, but you know, you can't. Sometimes you can't escape your biases in that regard. I'm gonna look at the comments again, see if there's been any other funny casting choices made. Die, facehugger. All right. David Cross is Conan. Arnold says Arnold's body is an amazing thing. Yes, it's very amazing. Hector Rodriguez says Sean Connery was a bodybuilder. Woe times before the juice. I suppose yes, he was. Funnily enough. Unknown Passenger says Alexander Skarsgård. I mean, after The Northman. Yeah, I mean, The Northman is the best Conan movie never made. Of the movies that are probably inspired by Conan, I guess, that is probably my favorite of them, because I'm a big Robert Eggers fan, and that movie does have a lot of stuff that is very similar to stuff that's in the first Conan movie. I would imagine that Eggers, I don't know that he was directly looking at that stuff, but I would imagine he's at least seen it. So maybe that counts. I don't know. Ah, god damn it. Sometimes the parrying in this, I screw up. I parry either too early or too late. God damn it. Okay. Do. Hey, John says Batista. That'd be interesting. Forever Shannon from Mallrats. Jason Lee, Andy Samberg, Peter Dinklage, Amy Schumer as Red Sonja. Oh my god. Will Wheaton as Conan. So, for those of you who are not big into Star Trek, which I'm admittedly not really myself. I like the original series quite a bit, but other than that, I'm not for any particular reason, I suppose. I'm just not into like the other shows like TNG and Deep Space Nine and such. But Will Wheaton is the only Next Generation cast member that has not been invited to be on Star Trek Picard. And he shills for that show really hard. And Red Letter Media, which is one of my favorite YouTube channels, they make fun of Will Wheaton quite a bit for his machinations in shilling for that show, especially in the second season. It's my understanding that that show is just terrible, but I have not seen it, admittedly, so I'm not going to give a definitive opinion on whether it's good or bad because I have not seen it. But the way that Mike and Jay describe it in those videos that they do is both hilarious and kind of horrifying at the same time. I can understand where Mike is coming from when in that video he talks about being disillusioned with the direction that Star Trek has been taken to the point where he's kind of sick of it now. And I kind of feel the same way with Marvel, which is something that I've never thought I'd say before, and it makes me sad to say that because, you know, I grew up on Marvel comics and I love their characters, but I just think we need something else. I mean, it's getting to the point where they are the only people that make movies that are successful and anyone cares about because they make so many of them a year. They crowd out other movies that deserve to have longer theatrical runs. I just feel kind of gross supporting them at this point, you know. But that isn't to say that there aren't great things still coming out of some of the smaller production studios. Like I saw The Northman, obviously, which I really liked, and I recently saw Everything Everywhere All the Time, which was just a phenomenal film. I really, really loved that movie. It's a very close second to The Northman at this point for my favorite movie of the year, and I honestly don't see anything surpassing those two movies. I mean, I don't want to say nothing will, but at this point, I mean, man, that Everything Everywhere All the Time melted my heart. I mean, it's such an optimistic film while also kind of being about people who believe that life and the world is kind of random and meaningless, and there's no real like godly purpose to life in the way that religious people of prior eras understood it. And I think that's a very like poignant message in today's world where religion is so on the down spiral in terms of people believing it in at least countries like the United States and some places in Europe. It's my understanding that religion is becoming more prominent in other parts of the world, but the society that I'm familiar with, certainly of my generation, there's a lot of kind of disillusionment with religion as we've just made more scientific discoveries. And I mean, I grew up Catholic, the various scandals that have happened in the church, so just a movie that's kind of about people who think the life and the world is meaningless and are able to find some sort of positive and really loving and heartfelt meaning in life. I just think that's the kind of movie we need nowadays. It's very poignant and way more deep and interesting, and speaking to the human condition and all of that sort of stuff than any Marvel movie I've seen. So, it's just, that movie is doing really well for what it is. I mean, it's an A24 movie, so it's a small production studio that produced it, and it's got a small marketing budget compared to Spider-Man 3 and Doctor Strange 2 and all the other products that Disney's pumping out of the factory. But it's doing well despite that. But I just wish I feel like in prior eras that film may have been something like The Matrix, where it gained word of mouth traction and became a huge box office hit, to the point where now The Matrix, Warner Brothers has tried continuously to revive it as a blockbuster franchise. I miss the eras of when we could have superhero films and comic book films based on some of my favorite characters, but that wasn't the only thing that was being focused on in Hollywood. You could get stuff from other genres that wasn't on a shoestring budget. But hopefully it swings back. Marvel shows no signs of slowing down, but it seems like DC has taken a step back and tried to focus, at least now, a little bit more on quality than quantity. We'll see if that kind of attitude remains after the feel of the Discovery people's control over DC as a brand is felt. But I really liked the Batman movie they made. I really liked the Joker movie they made. I've really liked the 2 Wonder Woman films they've made. I hated the Aquaman movie they made because Aquaman's one of my favorite DC characters, and I thought that movie was just dreadful in terms of adapting the character. I understand if you're not like an Aquaman fan or whatever. Like, it's a fun, goofy movie, but it just wasn't for me. Let's see. I'll read a few comments before I go into the boss chamber here. Oh, Hector Rodriguez said that I guess Will Wheaton is in Picard in the last episode of Season 2. Interesting. Okay, so they did indulge him. Well, I guess at least that's good. His rabid promotion of the show seems to have paid off. Connor says, Dan, have you read the Grant Morrison, Dan Morris Klaus? It's a Santa Claus thing origin that plays with a lot of Celtic mythology. Morrison's Santa is a Viking Superman. I have not read that, but I would like to because I've heard it's really good. I also want to read Grant Morrison's Savage Sword of Jesus Christ, which is a mashup of the tone and kind of dark fantasy vibe of Conan specifically with Jesus, and it sounds awesome. It was published, I guess, in Heavy Metal Magazine. So I might find an excuse to review that on the Conan channel at some point because it sounds fucking awesome. Grant Morrison is one of those writers that I really like. Some of his work is, some of my favorite comic books ever written. Like, I love his X-Men run. That's probably my favorite thing from him, but of course I like All-Star Superman quite a bit, and parts of his Batman run. I don't really love his Batman run until we get to the Batman and Robin stuff, then it kind of speaks to me a little bit more. But it's he's one of those writers that even when he does something that I'm not entirely in love with, it's at least interesting creatively. Like, and his Action Comics run in the New 52 was like one of the few things that was worth reading in that whole reboot line. I mean, it's phenomenal. I loved his sort of what he billed as the Bruce Springsteen in jeans Superman, like the blue collar, working class Superman. And I love that because, that's one of the reasons I love Spider-Man, is he's always been the blue-collar, working-class superhero, until the MCU, where they made him the apprentice of a billionaire, which, when they're under misunderstanding of what the character is, but, they don't hire me to write him, so it's up to them, it's ultimately their character, but it's just a little disappointing to me, this is supposed to be a person who was raised by a New York City bridge worker, not, a goofy, hot Italian aunt and a billionaire. I mean, I don't know. I think in the first MCU Spider-Man movie, I liked that movie quite a bit because they at least got the kind of blue collar vibe down with the Vulture and how he's sort of a disgruntled construction business owner, and he's sort of the evil reflection of what Uncle Ben is in the comics. But based on No Way Home, Uncle Ben never really existed in this universe, or at the very least didn't give him with power comes great responsibility lessons. So who knows why this character was motivated to be Spider-Man? It doesn't really track anymore, but we had villains from old movies, so it was worth it to them and most of the movie-going audience, I guess. I'm having a pretty good run at this boss here. I usually get supremely fucked up by him, but I'm doing pretty decent. I've got more than half his second health bar down, and Alright, we're on his last health bar. Oh, one of the Grant Morrison things I wanted to mention before is I really do want to read his Green Lantern at some point and see if Grant Morrison can make me care at all about Hal Jordan, because I think Green Lantern as a concept for a character seems like it would be up my alley. It's like Star Wars-y, space fantasy, science fiction stuff. Like, I love that stuff usually. But I don't know, every Green Lantern run that isn't starring Kyle Rayner that I've tried to get into, it just bores the heck out of me. I don't know, some of those DC Silver Age characters like Barry Allen and Hal Jordan, I just find really just it's like watching paint dry for me with stories with those characters. I'm much more of a Wally West fan of the Flash. He's like my favorite DC character, I should say. I don't dislike Barry Allen. I just think comparatively he's so boring. I don't know why we would... I just don't know why they brought him back, other than to do it as, oh, yeah, I think I'm about to beat this boss. Oh, yeah. So, as you can see with the achievement here, this is the furthest I've gotten in this game so far, and it was on stream. Perfect. Oh, I love it. Alright, so you guys are going to see me try to go into the fourth level and beat it. We'll see how that goes. Let's read some comments here. Micro42 says, IP is the death of creativity. If the Wasteland IP could have been used, we might not have had Fallout. If the Fallout IP wasn't under Bethesda, we wouldn't have the new Wasteland. Weird. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think companies treating these properties as intellectual property rather than things that they want to creatively make projects about is a fundamentally flawed view of these things, and I think it shows, you know, especially when you see things like what Disney did with Star Wars, which is another one of my favorite geek things. I'm a big Star Wars fan, and you know, Disney, when they got a hold of that, I was kind of excited because I was a big fan of the expanded universe of Star Wars as a youngin. You know, I really liked the Thrawn trilogy, the New Jedi Academy books, all of the Legacy of the Force books. I mean, there were so many, and I loved the video games. So, you know, the idea of someone that wasn't George Lucas working on Star Wars is something I was very used to. And I think, you know, outside of the original movies, I mean, some of the best Star Wars content is made by other people. So I thought to myself, you know, it'll be really awesome to see finally those people get a hold of a movie and do something cool with it. And, you know, I had always wanted to see a sequel trilogy of films to the original Star Wars trilogy. And they could not have screwed that up harder, in my opinion. I like The Force Awakens quite a bit. I think that's a movie that sort of lives and dies in terms of me keeping it in my consciousness as a fan of Star Wars based on its sequels. I mean, I watched that movie 5 times in the theater. I was really into Kylo Ren as a character, partly because of Adam Driver's performance, but also the writing in the film. I think Lawrence Kasdan and Abrams did a really good job setting that character up and realizing, like, what the sort of archetype and character that and role that this character was going to play in these films. And then the second movie I just didn't like at all, for reasons that are too long to get into here, and I don't want this to just become a complaint about Star Wars stream. But I think they royally screwed the pooch there, and then the third movie was just kind of a clusterfuck of trying to appease everyone in the fan base. So it ultimately ended up being a film for no one, and it was really bad. I think Rise of Skywalker is a worse film than Last Jedi, even though Last Jedi probably had a worse effect on the franchise. I think, you know, people in my persuasion in the Star Wars fan base, shall we say, that didn't like that movie for story reasons. I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, the politics of the movie, whatever. I think those people are a little tiresome, but I just don't think that movie works on a, like, Star Wars universe level, storytelling level. It's just, it's not for me. And I think that movie probably had a worse effect on the franchise, and I had a little bit more of a visceral reaction to it because Luke Skywalker is my favorite heroic character in Star Wars anyway. Boba Fett is my favorite. Darth Vader is probably my second, but Luke is a very close third. I love Luke Skywalker, and I think that film just fundamentally misunderstands who Luke is as a character, and I just don't like it. But anyway, let's talk about some Conan, shall we? One of the things that I guess I can tell you guys about now that I'm planning on doing on the channel, and some of the people are actually in the comments here. Over the summer months, I'm planning on... we're still in the planning stages of it now, so it might be later in the summer. I'm not really sure. I would like to do it in the summer, but I guess we'll see what happens in terms of how busy people are. But myself and a few of my good friends in the geek community on the internet that we've made here, we have a Discord server and we're all good friends in there. I'm planning on doing a Conan tabletop role-playing game with them over Discord, and we're going to record the sessions, post them to the channel, and do it as kind of a video series on Conan Chronicles. I bought the PDF versions of a bunch of the books by... I'm trying to remember the company's name at the moment. I can't remember, but it's the most recent Conan RPG that's been released. It's called Conan Adventures in an Age Undreamed Of. It's based on the 2D20 system that I think this company specifically had developed. They have a John Carter of Mars role-playing game. I believe they did the most recent Fallout tabletop RPG. So they have a good pedigree. And the Conan game, from what I understand, that they made is one of the better Conan RPGs, and that's saying something. Because Conan has a long and storied history in tabletop role-playing. There's been a lot of good sort of adaptations of Conan and the Hyborian world in that medium. So I bought the core rulebook, the player's guide, and one of the source books called Jeweled Thrones of the Earth that has 7 pre-made adventures in it. And we're going to play through at least the pre-made ones that are in that book. I might do some proprietary ones after that if the inspiration strikes me and I have time. But we had been running a Star Wars game that I was dungeon mastering. We did one session, and it just became too much work for me to do the game to the degree that I wanted to. I like making maps and really like meticulously plotting the things, making character arcs for all the various party members that are in the story. Make it feel like a real like role-playing game that the players are engrossed in, because I love role-playing games, especially in video game format. I mean, I'm a big fan of like BioWare's games, Bethesda's video games, that kind of stuff. So, I didn't need to go into that degree of detail as I did, but I don't know, I'm a freak about that stuff, so I wanted to, and I would have felt like I was half-assing it if I didn't. So this will get over my kind of, dumb urge to make an entire story and overarching plot and stuff myself, and just kind of stick to the stuff that we have pre-made for us, which will be, I think, really fun. So yeah, I mean, I'm really excited to play that with some of the folks that we have in the Discord, and we have a really great dynamic. I think you guys will find our conversations and our friendship entertaining. We've got a lot of funny folks, a lot of folks with really just interesting people, and not in a like, oh, they're interesting weirdos, like genuinely awesome people. So I think you guys will enjoy that. All right, so my first run has ended. Let's see. I died, but we had a good run there. I beat the third boss, and I think I will... Ooh, I'm going to have enough skill points to buy an awesome level up ability for Conan here. I'm going to play for another 30 minutes. I'll go till 10 o'clock, so we'll do another quick run, and then I will end the stream. John says, "Oh no, now you've hyped it up." No, 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 no. I'm not trying to like overhype it or anything, but I'm just, I guess, enthusiastic about playing that with you folks because I love tabletop role playing games and playing them with people. It's the bestest. When Conan is low on health, he gains additional rage from dealing and taking damage. So we can do movement speed. This is one of the things I think is cool about this game too. All of the traits that are in like red border here I have purchased, and they all improve your character in a variety of ways, like a skill tree in an RPG. So I can buy Fear S, which is when Conan kills an enemy, there's a chance he inflicts fear on nearby enemies. Ooh, that sounds really helpful. Because if I'm mobbed by a bunch of people and I kill someone, it'll send them away. Movement speed is also really useful. Last stand. Yeah, let's take Fear S. That one seems really useful. And then I'm going to have to go and unlock all the other stuff for these other characters. I think I'm going to do Belit next, because she's just fucking awesome in Queen of the Black Coast. She's one of my favorite supporting Conan characters. So, yes. Let's see, I got some good star metal from that too, so let's see what we can buy. We'll go with a shield this time. Oh, actually, I'll go with some armor, because then we can unlock the next tier. Let's see, John says, now I'm interested to see your reaction to Army of Darkness. I feel like that would be your favorite of the Evil Dead films. Yeah, I'm going to have to watch those. Actually, I should probably take the opportunity to talk about this. We can do some kind of cross-promotion. Tomorrow night, I don't know what time John's going to be doing it, but the channel, of course, is Haven of Horror. He's in the comments here if you guys are interested in what I'm about to say. So John is a big horror fan, obviously, and a big fan of the Evil Dead franchise. I have not seen any of the movies except for a part of the first one. But I love the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films, obviously, because I'm a huge Spider-Man fan, and I know some Spider-Man fans don't love those movies. I'm of the persuasion that I really love them, except for 3, obviously. 3 is very flawed. Anyway, there's a new Evil Dead video game coming out, and John was talking about it a lot in our Discord server, and he sold me on checking it out, even though I'm not as big into Evil Dead as he is. And he's going to be doing a live stream of us playing that game. I believe it's going to be me, him, and maybe our friend Austin. I'm not sure yet if he's going to be able to make it, but the stream will be up on his channel, and if you're interested in watching me and some of my friends play that Evil Dead game on John's channel, definitely check it out. Austin and John will likely be 2 of the people that's in the Conan role-playing party too, so you might get to see and know them a little bit from that. It will be interesting. I'm trying to decide if I should go with... Let's see. Maybe I'll do a shield this time. Assuming cartridge is an explosion. Let's go with Raider shield. That one sounds good. Alright. Now we shall purchase a weapon. Dragonbone halberd. We'll do the explosive warbow. And let's see, chicken shape. All right, let's embark. Apologize if you can hear the dog barking outside my apartment. Dog's barking really loud right near my window. I want to see how often this fear effect that Conan has that I just bought triggers. Let's see. I love my chicken pet. We love chickens, folks. I love the explosive bow too. You can just shoot bomb arrows. It's also like Zelda. It's awesome. Let's go up here first. Boom. Alright. Already got some good key action going on. The keys, of course, I guess I should have explained this earlier. They allow you to open all the locked chests that have hopefully good gear in them, also randomly generated, but I think they do scale with your current equipment, so you don't like get anything that's like worse than what you have. It's either like marginally better or about the same quality most of the time, unless you like stumble upon something like super rare, and then that will last you for a while, you know, even over some of the stuff you find in the chests. But in general, it's usually something a little bit better than what you already have. Okay, let's see. Now we can get the bee pet too. Call me the animal handler. See what's in this chest. Hey, we got a new bow, folks. Boom. Alright. Star Metal Halberd. Bada bing. And I'm out of keys, unfortunately. I think swords and spears, I don't know in this game which one I like more. Maybe the spears, because you have a little bit of a longer range. It's kind of like, you know, Donatello in the old NES Ninja Turtles game, where he's like the best turtle because you can just hit anything from far away. Donatello's my favorite Ninja Turtle anyway, so I was happy to always choose him. I hope people are enjoying this stream and the Conan video game streams in general. I think if people like them, I'll probably stream the other games that were on the list of choices. The 2007 game, the Conan Exiles survival RPG, which I love. I have put many hours into Conan Exiles. It's a really fun game. I'll probably do the Isle of Sipta if I do the expansion pack, because that's, you know, I've played a bunch in the Exiled Lands on one character. I have him at max level, and I've done some of the dungeons, but the Isle of Sipta, I have bought the expansion, but I've been distracted playing other things like Halo Infinite and Age of Conan, so I haven't went back to it and played the Isle of Sipta to any intense, serious degree like I did with the Exiled Lands stuff, so maybe that'll give me an excuse to go and play that expansion, but that could be fun. And then, what else? Oh, Conan and Concord, which is a real-time strategy game made by the Command and Conquer developers. Obviously have a long and storied pedigree with that genre. It's really cool that they made a Conan game. I, to be honest, am not a big RTS person. I haven't played a ton of them. My favorite strategy games generally are the turn-based ones. Like, I've played a lot of Civilization, of course, because I'm a big history fan. But that's, you know, that's entirely turn-based, so it's a little bit less hectic, at least. Excuse me, I'm yawning. At least a little bit, you know, the real-time ones are a little bit more hectic than the turn-based ones because you have to be managing so many systems at the same time and such. But I've played a little bit of Warcraft. That's the one real-time strategy game that I've spent a decent amount of time with, but not super good at it, if we're being honest. So maybe this Conan one will be my kind of window into playing the genre more and getting more into it. Like, this is my first roguelite game. I started playing because of Conan and, you know, the Conan license. And, you know, at first I was really bad at it, but I think I've gotten pretty decent at it so far. I mean, I'm getting to the point where I can at least make it to the last exploratory level of the game. I don't know if it's just a boss fight with Tathamon after you open that door, but in any case, I'm getting decent at it, so that's pretty cool. Go with Twin Fangs here. Did I miss any of the doors? I did not. Okay. Let's see. This armor is better. And we're gonna fight Thak again, folks. Unknown Passenger says, yes, more of these video game streams. Well, I will happily oblige. That will definitely happen. Maybe I'll take another poll and see which game people want me to do next. I'd like to really do like a Let's Play of one of these games through live streams and kind of like play through the whole thing. Maybe maybe I could do that with the 2007 game, because that game has a definitive, you know, beginning, middle, and end. Oh, god damn it. I just got like all my health taken out by that accidentally. What the fuck? Well, that may have fucked this run up. We need hearts, folks. Having to play real carefully right now. John says, I almost bought Conan Exiles when it was like $7 on Steam. Well, sir, if you'd ever like to play, I don't know if Conan Exiles is crossplay, but that game's awesome. I really love that game. And the kind of thing that you have to do with that game, if you like more linear experiences, which I know John does like, he likes kind of... Oh, and open world games that have like a clear direction. Conan Exiles is a game that just drops you into the middle of the world and you kind of have to figure out what to do. But there's a lot of like really good guides online that can show you like where all the dungeons are, what level you have to beat them, gear recommendations, how to do stuff. So if you are willing to invest the kind of, I guess, effort and interest in the game in that regard, it is really fun. To eat outside of the survival mechanics, which I also think are really fun. But it's not for everyone, I understand, you know. There's one heart. Oh, fuck. You better drop. Nobody's dropping hearts. This bow setup I have going right now is OP as hell. I'm loving it. Connor's heading out. Thank you for showing up, Connor. I really appreciate it, and thank you on the congratulations for the subs. Alright. Boom. Okay. I would really love to do a group party stream of this game. I feel like we could have fun getting through the levels, because it's obviously much easier when you have a party of people rather than just one. It gets really hectic, as you guys saw in the 3rd and 4th levels, with all the enemies that are on screen and such. Well, at least I have 2 hearts now. I may be able to beat Thak with just 2, at least initially. I have a meat, which I can use to recover my health, but I'll try to dodge him as much as possible before I use it. But if I can beat him, we may still be able to recover this run. So I want to make sure I've been through everything. Alright, so we got 3 hearts. Let's go. God damn it. Alright, we got Thak down to his last health bar, and I haven't had to use my meat yet. Oh, now I gotta use it. Alright, I got my rage build up here. And there we go. Boom. We recovered from a potentially disastrous incident there where I was stupid and stood in the way of a moving spike block. But we have recovered. You know what? I'll keep playing until this run is over, I think. Let's see how far I can get this time. I had good luck with you guys watching me on the stream. I expected to do worse, but, you know, sometimes you do good under pressure, I guess. Alright, I'm going to save my gold so I can buy... Oh, forgot. I should probably buy some meat here. There we are. Okay. Do-do-do. I'm really liking this setup of like dual shot arrows and the fire. Like it shreds things to pieces. Man, this is an OP setup. I love it. I really like the ranged weapons in this game. The bow is really fun. I hope that this game sells well enough that maybe they can get a sequel and maybe put in some other range weapons too, like maybe a sling or a crossbow, something like that. That'd be pretty awesome. Oh, I'm getting some pretty good gear. Let's go, guys. Good run. John says, once I get my Xbox back, I definitely would be down to play this with you. Hell yeah, man. That'd be really fun. Where did your Xbox go? I hope it's okay. Yeah, man, that'd be pretty awesome. We can play together, and it can run you through, level up a character really fast. You'll catch up quick if you play with me, because my character's like leveled up almost to max at this point in terms of Conan's abilities. So I can run you towards further passages in the game, and you earn a ton of experience when you go to like the third level and fourth level. I mean, I got a ton, but that was the first time I'd ever gotten there, so I didn't know how much experience and ability points you get, but you'll catch up in no time. Be interested to see who you pick too. Because all of the characters have different abilities and play differently. Like Belit, I guess, is like the rogue archetype. She specializes in ranged combat and things of that nature. Palentides is a tank. Conan's kind of like your warrior DPS, and Valeria's sort of a rogue warrior hybrid, sort of a halfway between Conan and Belit. Noah says his Xbox is on the run from the police. You know, I would not be surprised. John's Xbox is on reserve, folks, and we like that. Well, we got another heart container. That was cool. Obviously, another inspiration from The Legend of Zelda. Heart containers are one of the iconic things from those games, and we like that. Man, I really like this build I've stumbled across here. I'm doing really well. It's one of the things that's cool about this game, like, there is quite a bit of variance in the way that you can spec your character based on the gear you get. John said he let Noah borrow it and suddenly the cops are after it. Interesting. Apparently Noah's not a good steward of Xboxes. Unknown passenger says that Noah stole his wallet. What a bastard. I knew that Noah was trouble from the moment he was let into our Discord. I have like 10 keys right now. This is insane. It's like keys on keys on keys. This means that I will also have a good run because I will have access to the best of the best gear as we move forward here. Man, I'm on a roll here. I'm really digging this run. Just wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything. Do, 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 do. Should I spend my money? Oh yeah, this is a big upgrade. I get 2 extra hearts. Okay. Oh, mini boss time. There we go. Ah, and I just spent money on armor too. God damn. Well, at least I have good gear. It's a silver lining to all this. Ooh, poison strike. Which one should I exchange? Oh, I thought I had the fire arrows. I guess I didn't. I'm stupid. Okay. Now I got a poison spear. Poison's really good in this game. Okay. Let's do a clean run of this dungeon, unlike last time. You know, I honestly don't want to buy that mace, even though it's better. I fucking hate the maces in this game. They're way too slow. I'm gonna stick with the spear. Bada bing. Alright. I'll be interested to see which game people are more interested in seeing me play for the next one. I could also stream some more Age of Conan too. That's a game I have to get back to. My character's around level 60, and I really like it. It's one of my favorite MMOs that I've played. You know, I was a big World of Warcraft fan, and well, I guess I still am. I just don't play it as much as I once did. I haven't played. What was the last expansion I played? I think it was Battle for Azeroth. That was the last one I played extensively. The newest one I think I do have. I either have the newest one or the second newest one, and I just haven't leveled my character up to the max level and done the questing and stuff. I was going to do it with a friend, and then I just ran out of time at the time and just haven't went back to the game since, but it's just kind of sad what's going on with Activision Blizzard at the moment. With all of this sexual stuff and, you know, Microsoft buying them. I mean, that could maybe be good for the company and the IPs, but I'm a little wary of consolidation in every industry of American life now. It's I don't know if I like that. As good as it is for the the platform on which I play games, I suppose. I mean, Xbox has always been my favorite of the big, competitors in the game space. I've always been an Xbox person. Going back to the original one, I've never owned a PlayStation system. Not because I hate PlayStation, I just... I bought the original Xbox back in the day because they had exclusive Star Wars games I wanted to play, and then I bought a 360, and then I decided to get an Xbox One, be a loyal fan because I love Halo, and some of the other Microsoft exclusive franchises like Fable and stuff like that, but the Xbox One generation was just a bit of a flop. I mean, I mean comparatively to the PlayStation and what they were doing at the time. Because the PlayStation just, PS4 is, going to go down in history as one of the best consoles ever made in terms of like the games that were on it and all that kind of stuff. I mean, the Xbox One was a wonderful system. I played the shit out of it when I had it, but it's just you can't deny that the PlayStation was just a better system for games. They just had better software. Oh. John says, we love God of War, folks. You know, God of War is not a series I've played at all because I've been an Xbox person, but especially the newest one where it's all like Norse mythology, it looks amazing, and I would really like to play it. I'm thinking about buying a PS5, honestly, at some point, when I can get my hands on one of the all-digital ones, because that Spider-Man game they made on the PS4 was just the best thing ever. It was like so refreshing in as a Marvel fan, you know, who's a bit disgruntled with what the company is doing in the movies and the comics to a lesser degree, but still a little bit disappointed. I don't read anything current from Marvel Comics on a regular basis. They've had some really great runs in recent years, but I feel like it's just been so few and far between compared to some of the prior eras that it just, I don't know, it just feels disappointing, I suppose. But that Spider-Man game was just a bright spot for me. I mean, it's just everything I love about that character distilled into an awesome playable experience, you know? From a story perspective, from the way the character's powers are represented in the gameplay, to the portrayal of the villains and the world and the supporting cast of Spider-Man. I mean, it's just incredible. So I'm gonna need to play that at some point. Plus, the same people are making a Wolverine game, and I'm a big X-Men fan too, so I would be remiss if I missed that as well. You know, I love Wolverine, so. Come on, you stupid worm, you can do it, die. John said that the Spider-Man game is now on Steam. That's awesome. I played that on PS Now on my PC, which was a relatively compromised way to play it, just because, like, there was this weird glitch I would have where if I stopped playing the game for a decent amount of time, like I exited out of the game when I had been initially playing it, if I tried to log back into it on PS Now, the controller that I had to buy to play it, like the PlayStation controller, just wouldn't work. So I'd have to restart my entire PC, and then the game was controllable again. So that was a bit of a pain, but you know, in the slowdowns from the fact that it's a streaming version of the game. But you know, if I eventually, which I would like to, pick up a PS5, I will definitely get the remaster of that first Spider-Man game too. Alright, so we got that. Let's get this guy. Oh, this setup I've got here is going to be real good. And we'll do that too. Alrighty, let's go into the third level. Alrighty. Boom. I wish PlayStation would put their games day and date on PC, but you know, that would probably be very bad for Sony as a company. They don't have the the sort of investment and stake in the PC space as Microsoft does. You know, they would really like really like people to invest in their ecosystem. Let's go. I love how when the pets die, they turn into absurd things like a cooked chicken. The pig one turns into a pile of bacon. That one's really funny. See, I just love the goofy tone of this. It's very charming. An atypical take on Howard's kind of dreary and dark Hyborian Age world, you know. Alrighty. I guess we can't have nice things today. In this run, anyway. Oh. Head over here. Ooh, I got that guy right before the facehugger jumped on him. That's what we like to see. I'm not a fan of the facehuggers. Those things make your enemy like tougher to beat. They get like a ton more hit points. They're a pain. John said he finally found a way to play Web of Shadows. That's awesome. I love that game. That's one of the best Spider-Man games ever made, in my opinion. It's really fun. I love that it had the kind of role-playing choicey aspect to it, where you would, you know, kind of play as the normally good Spider-Man or the more edgy, dark black suit Spider-Man. I would always play as the black suit Spider-Man because that's my favorite superhero costume design ever. And I wanted to just have that on all the time. So I went full evil Spider-Man in most of the time in that game. I did playthroughs as the red suit Spider-Man too, just the normal one, where you're just regular good old Peter Parker, of course, but the symbiote combat in that game, because you could, like, you know, buy different abilities depending on which suit you focused on more and improve your combat abilities. It was just so cool being able to use all of the symbiote tentacles, and I don't know, I love that stuff. I found the Wheel of Pain. Look at that. It's the thing that Arnold pushes in the first Conan movie to break his will. Some better armor here. Alrighty. Boom, doo doo doo. So I'm gonna need to buy another meat haunch. And I can't afford this bow, so let's get that. Did I miss any of the rooms? No, I did not. Alright, we're coming up on the third dungeon here again. No chests. Let's hop in. Oh yeah, and John was saying that he's trying to get his hands on a copy of Ultimate Spider-Man that works too, which is another game that I quite enjoy. I had that game on the GameCube when I was younger, and that's a really fun one too. Especially as a fan of the Ultimate Spider-Man comic books. That game, at least for a while, was canon. In the Brian Michael Bendis run on Ultimate Spider-Man, which is one of my favorite comic book runs of all time. I really like Bendis in his early career at Marvel is one of the best writers they ever had. Unknown passenger. He is asking who my favorite Spider-Man voice actor is. I would have to say probably Josh Keaton from the Spectacular Spider-Man animated series. For a long time it was Christopher Daniel Barnes, the guy from the 90s show that you mentioned, and John mentioned as his favorite. I do like his voice a lot as well, but just because that's the one that I grew up with and watching that Spider-Man animated show on television. But I do think that Spectacular Spider-Man series is one of the definitive takes on the character for me. It's probably one of, if not my favorite adaptations of Spider-Man's Spider-Man as a character outside of the comic books. It's just amazing. Okay. Let's see what we can do here. I'm going to try to hit all the rooms in this run on the third dungeon because I seem to be doing pretty good here. And John said he loved Ultimate Spider-Man, so he's glad that they ended it when Peter died. John is not a Miles Morales fan because he likes the Ultimate version of Peter Parker so much, and he just doesn't think Miles is as interesting, which is fair. I think, for me personally, I do like Miles Morales, but I can't argue with the fact that, Peter Parker is a more interesting character to me than Miles Morales is, because, he is. I think Miles Morales is a fine character. He's not one of my absolute favorites or anything, but he's fine. Boom. Boom. Okay. Alright, so that's the boss room. Let's go back, because there's one chamber, or series of chambers probably, that I didn't explore over here. John says, did Josh Keaton ever go, shocker? And no, he did not, which is one of the best scenes in that 90s Spider-Man show. That show's hilarious at various points, but that is one of the highlights. Unknown Passenger says he agrees that Spectacular Spider-Man is the better show. Yeah, I mean, that's not to say, you know, shit on 90s Spider-Man, because I think that show, even though it is very 90s Marvel animated series, it's probably not as good as the X-Men one. I still really like it and think it's super entertaining. But I'm kind of a fraud, and I even like the 90s Hulk animated series, because I'm a big old Hulk fan, so that was a show that I quite liked as a youngin', and had a bunch of the episodes on VHS for as a child. So that and the 03 Hulk movie were things that I watched quite a bit, almost as much as I watched like the Raimi Spider-Man stuff and the 90s Spider-Man show. There was just, you know, less of the Hulk available on VHS than the Spider-Man animated show, but I did watch the Lou Ferrigno, Bill Bixby Hulk show quite a bit with my mom as a kid. She let me buy the a variety of the various DVD seasons and the TV movies when we could find them, and I would watch them with her because that was one of her favorite shows when she was growing up. She really liked that show, that's, you know, the 70s Hulk TV show, and her dad was a big fan of both Star Trek and the 60s Batman show, so she liked the 60s Batman show quite a bit. That I do know. Unknown Passenger says he only likes Miles in Into the Spider-Verse, and I like him in other things, but I will agree with you in the sense that I think the Into the Spider-Verse movie version is the best version of Miles Morales, by far. By far. So, there's that. But that Spider-Verse movie, I think, is just so fantastic in general. It's really a thing to behold. I had like no expectations for that movie going in, just because it's, you know, it's Sony, probably the worst movie studio right now. I mean, it's hard to be worse than Paramount in general, but you know, Paramount at least has one thing going on that I do enjoy, and Sony, there's very few things. I guess I did find that new Ghostbusters movie they did kind of entertaining. I'm not a big Ghostbusters fan, so I don't really have any investment in like the franchise as like a, you know, as something that I love or need to see more of. But I watched it with my mom not too long ago. I was over at my parents' house visiting, and she wanted to watch something that wasn't super, you know, dour and dark or whatever, so, you know, and we wanted to watch, you know, and I kind of did too, we wanted to watch something that was a little bit more lighthearted, so we picked Ghostbusters, because, you know, it's a comedy, at least the first two were, and the reboot is anti-comedy, but the new one, I was pleasantly surprised by. I was like, wow, I actually really like these characters. I'm kind of invested in what's happening. which I did not expect. I expected to just kind of passively watch and be like, ah, you know, whatever, it's a Sony movie. But I was pleasantly surprised that it actually had like character arcs in it, and it wasn't entirely just nostalgia-based exploitation and, you know, shilling ads for things like Papa John's, you know, as Sony is known to do. But it was surprisingly entertaining, I have to say. I'm gonna beat the third boss again. I love it. Fuck. That's the thing about this guy. He hits really fucking hard. So you gotta, like, be very careful. Jesus, fuck. I'm so close and I'm so low on health. Hey! That was a close one. And are we gonna beat him? Yes, we did! Unknown Passenger says he loved the 90s Hulk show as a kid. That's awesome. I'm glad that I am not the only one out there. John's making fun of the Ghostbusters reboot, and he says that he liked Afterlife. I was, yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that if they continue that franchise, they let the same people be involved as the Afterlife movie. Or, you know, if they don't want to be involved, I guess don't bring them back and force them to make something they don't want to make for money. But, you know, if they're interested. Do-do-do. Alright. I am on a fucking roll, dude. This is amazing. I've never done this well of a run in this whole game before. My best runs have been on stream, which is kind of incredible. I thought I was going to stink it up really hard. Fuck. These skeleton guys hit really hard. Which I suppose is appropriate since this is one of the later levels in the game. John says, today Dan plays Chop Chop, tomorrow Dark Souls. You know, I have considered buying that Elden Ring game, but I don't know if it'll be worth my money in the sense that I don't know if I will enjoy playing it or not. Because I've never played any of those Dark Souls games, and the reputation they have for being difficult intimidates me a little bit. And the only one game that I've like played that's kind of similar to it is Jedi Fallen Order, and I had to turn that game down to the lowest difficulty at certain points. And I don't know, I'd like to think I'm pretty decent at video games. Like, I'm no slouch. I'm not a pro elite gamer, but I'm pretty decent. And I couldn't even finish that game on normal difficulty. I tried to. I kept it on normal and died a lot up until the final boss of Jedi Fallen Order, and I could not beat her, so I turned it down. Let's see, Unknown Passenger. Have you played Spider-Man Edge of Time? It's written by Peter David. Yes, I have. And that game, I think, is super underrated. Peter David's story in that game is fucking great. Peter David's one of my favorite writers in comics. He's the best. His Hulk run is great. I love all of his work on Spider-Man. I haven't read his X-Force stuff, or not X-Force, X-Factor. I haven't read any of his X-Factor run, which I've heard is good stuff, but... yeah, I'm a big Peter David fan, so when they announced he was writing that game, I was super excited, and I think he did a great job. Oh, fucking A. I can't die here. Come on. Come on. We need a heart, folks. Hopefully this is the village right here. And no, of course it's not. Alright, let's try to kill these motherfuckers. Okay, I died. Well! That was also a good run. I think I'm going to end the stream here. Thank you everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed the stream, and thank you to everyone who subscribed. I can't thank you enough for everything you guys do for the channel in terms of watching, liking, subscribing, commenting, supporting the channel monetarily, tuning into these streams. I mean, it means the world to me, and I just really appreciate all of you, and wanted to do something special. So I hope you have a good night, and I will see you soon.